Okay, we are all set.
Very good. So I'm going to call the meeting to order at 4:06. This is the Lewis County Youth Advisory Board. I appreciate everybody being on the call today. I want to quickly run through who we have on the call, and if I miss anybody, certainly let me know. We have Deanna Edick. She is the Youth Board Director for Lewis County. We have Ramona Carpenter. She is the Youth Board Assistant for the county. We also have Lisa Verkler on the call. She is an ex officio member as well from the Board of Legislators. She's appointed to be here for that. Now, as far as actually voting members that we have, Callie is on, I think. She was. I don't see her on there now. Maybe she stepped off just for a minute. We have Peyton Walker, she's on. John Exford is on. Ward Daly. Mike Leviker. Brian Finn. Scott Mathis, myself. Katie Zaire is on the call. Eileen Mathis is on the call. Lisa is on the call. Where is she? Up in the corner. David Fail is on. Ada Simpson is on. Those are our voting members. We do have a few guests as well. We have some observing students on the call right now from Copenhagen. Gavin Tufo and Brett Voigt are on the call. And we also have two guests that would be Chris Page, who's from Mountain View, Kyle Chartrand from Mountain View, that will be here to be able to answer any questions when we get to the point of the meeting when we're going over some of the funding requests. Did I miss anybody going through the membership that's here today? Okay, not hearing any. We do have quorum, so we're good to go. First order up of business. I see Callie on there now. Callie's back. How you doing, Callie?
Good, how are you?
Very good. Awesome. We have quorum. We're going to push through with a few items of business right now. We have 2 minutes, meeting minutes from past meetings, the April 21st meeting minutes and the May 19th meeting minutes. They were done up by Deanna. They were put out. So we have received those copies. I would entertain anybody that has something that needs to be revised in it. Otherwise, I'm looking for a motion to approve both of those minutes. Does anybody want to make that motion? Katie.
I'll make a motion.
I see a hand from Katie on that. Do I have a second?
I'll second. This is Peyton Walker.
I'll take that one, Peyton, and Mike, you can get the next one there. I saw your hand go up too. All those in favor remain silent. Opposed, say nay. Carried. Thank you very much. Old business. This is just updates. We had a number of youth board members that needed to be reappointed. The Board of Legislators would present to that information. It was a resolution 138/2021, and it reappointed the following people: Cinda Bush, Scott Mathis, Mike Leviker, Brian Finn, John Exford, and Katie Zaire. That went through, all good to go. Moving on to new business, we have some funding to go through and 2 different pots. There's the county fund allocation. That is $5,000 pot that can be used for youth programs in general. No specific topics for them. They cannot be used for salaries though. The second pot of funding that we put an RFP out is for Ocfs Funds. That's Office of Children and Family Services. Those funds are directed, they can be used for salaries, and those funds are meant to be used for programs for youth in the community that could be things that aid keeping youth out of juvenile delinquency and keep giving them meaningful things to do and providing programs that can be meaningful for their emotional well-being, physical well-being, and things like that. Okay. So I think we want to just proceed at first with the county funds. We received 3 we received 3 applications for that. One was from Mountain View Prevention that had 2 components to it. This was, there had 2 things that they're working on through that. It's a thing called Sport. That is a single session prevention program. It's about increasing fitness. It's about enhancing behaviors and things like that. That's Sport. It's 1 session. Then there is a multi-session. It's 7, I believe, 7 sessions in this. It's called the Too Good for Violence program. And that one actually obviously has a more drawn out purpose to it. That request for both of those was $4,850. The second application received was from the Lava Library. It is for them to continue their story walk project. Their request is for $550. It is for supplies for that. The story walk is where they put up various pages of a story. And as you walk through places, you experience the whole story. They've done this over at the DEC in Dadville. So that's a meaningful outdoor activity. The third application was from the Up Coalition, and that is for a photo story project that they do. There was $1,070 was requested. A good portion of that request was for camera equipment. And then a little bit of it was for some prints and things like that. Basically, that is like story journalism of societal issues that youth are facing. So all of these 3 applications were provided to the youth board members. I did have a few questions that I talked with Deanna about, and she allowed me to ask send a couple questions out to these agencies, and they all sent responses back, and those would have been provided to people as well. Honestly, they all seem to be well-meaning programs in the community. We have $6,470 worth of requests and $5,000 to expend. So we do need to look at what we're going to fund and what we can't fund. I do think, Deanna, that we want to keep in mind that if there's something that, if there's an overage here, we possibly could pay for that out of the OCFS funds if it met those parameters. Is that possible?
I think so, as long as they would have to obviously complete an application.
Yeah, so we just want to keep that in mind. So listening to the members of the board, are there any of those particular programs that I gave a insufficiently, brief summary of, but you all have seen you all had the applications. Are there any that should be removed off the table because they don't fit the intent of the county youth funding? Hearing none, they're all in play then. Any discussion or input on the merit of these, or how we should go about funding the different activities?
I just had a quick question for Kyle and Chris. Correct me if I'm wrong, I'm just jogging my memory. So Sport and Too Good, not drugs, because I know that's one for violence. Those are curriculums, right? But you're like administering them for like program use.
Yeah, Kyle, why don't you give Katie a little background on Too Good for Violence and Sport and how we're going to do those this summer, what the plan is.
Yeah, no problem. So what we do is we go out to all the rec centers in Lewis County, like, for example, Harrisville, Lions Falls, Copenhagen, Lowville, Krogan, wherever the rec centers are. We have a few of these lined up, and we implement these programs there for the students that show up to the rec centers. Like the Sport is a 1-session program that focuses on fitness, nutrition, for example, healthy eating, healthy whatever, sleeping and also fitness activities, basically getting the kids moving is what sport does. And Too Good for Violence focuses on behavior, like, positive behavior, like, positive ways to deal with anger, not hitting each other, but, talking it out, seeing a counselor, seeing a teacher, different activities that can work with stress relief. That in a nutshell is Too Good for Violence. Like I said, it's 7 programs. It focuses on positive behavior and positive reinforcement for positive choices.
Okay, great. Yeah, I was trying to remember. Yeah, that sounds good.
But to your point, Katie, it is an evidence-based program. When you mentioned Too Good for Drugs, these are both evidence-based, which means that if they're implemented with fidelity, you can expect certain outcomes based on that by the developers. So they are both evidence-based programs.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Thank you, Katie. Other questions from the members? Not hearing any other questions, we do need to get to a point where we look at funding. So we either need to determine what we're not going to fund in part or in whole of each of these. If we feel that they're all sufficient, we could possibly fund the Lava Library and the Up Coalition at the full requested amount, the MVP, the Mountain View Prevention ones, because their curriculum that attends to things that OCFS would allow, we could fund them at the remaining amount and then encourage them to apply for the OCFS funds for the missing part. I mean, that's just pragmatically, that's where we're at if we're going to, about how we want to move forward. Does anybody have an opinion on the direction we go with that? Very talkative group.
Is it open to the floor? Or you want input from me, Scott, or just from the members?
I'll take input from you. I mean, I'll eventually will be putting a motion on from the voting numbers, but yeah.
I would say it makes sense what you just said from my perspective. I mean, the library and Up Coalition certainly are, from what I've heard, deserving of the funding. So we can work with that if that helps.
I like that idea as well.
What was that, Callie?
I like that idea as well. So if we're looking for a motion, I'll make the motion to fully fund the library and the Up, and then partially fund the other one.
I agree.
So if my math looks right, it would look to me that we're funding the Lava Library at their full 550, the Up Coalition at their full 1,070, and then Mountain View Prevention at $3,380.
Would I be correct in abstaining from the vote on the Lava Library?
When we get to that point, yes, you can.
Okay, thank you.
So Kaylee made a motion, and I just read out the numbers. And that was that Mountain View Prevention funded at $3,380, Lava Library at $550, Up Coalition at $1,070, and that the missing amount, which is approximately $1,470, if I did my math right, from Mountain View could be addressed through an application and through the OCFS funds. That is the motion that is on the table from Callie. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Let's see, I had a couple things there. I think I saw, Brian, your hand up first there. I'll take that. Any further discussion on this? Hearing none, all in favor, remain silent. Any opposed, say nay. one abstaining with Eileen. She works at times at the Lowell Library, so just out of fairness, she is abstaining from that. Carried. That's our county funding. Moving on to the OCFS funding, that's the Office of Children and Family Services funding. We put an RFP out for $23,399. We received one application. That's very unusual. We get a number of them, and we're in a position where we have more requests than what we have for funding. At the same time, things are just starting to open up in a lot of places. Some programs didn't happen and whatnot. So the application that we received was Mountain View Prevention for their school-based counseling services that they offer. The request was for $9,500. The application itself was received by everyone. I utilized, I don't know who else did, but I utilized Deanna's rating rubric that was created to see how it stacked up point-wise against the different sections that were part of that. This is an existing program. It's in a few of the schools. We do have, we have the ability to award the program more funding than what they requested. So that's a reason why we do have a person like Chris Page here, because we can do a number of things. We can award the single program more if they can utilize it effectively, if it helps bolster their program, if it helps support where they may have had decreases in funding. We can certainly do that. We also can put out another RFP. One word of caution would be these funds we want to use and expend by the end of the calendar year, because we do not want to end up handing any of these funds back and give the appearance as if Lewis County doesn't need this for our youth. In addition, months down the road, they very well could send what's called a state set aside. Could be another couple thousand that gets brought in that we could have access to. So I do think it's important to at least entertain if Mountain View would benefit from additional funding beyond what they requested. So Chris, you're here. You kind of heard my little lead-ins to that. What is the need within your organization to help support and keep that program operational, and the impact of potentially some additional funding to your request?
Thanks, Scott. So for us this year, it's been a unique year. Like many not-for-profits, it's been an up and down year. We did experience quite a significant loss of some revenues. When I put this budget in, I wasn't looking to ask for all the dollars, because like you said, historically, that's just not the way it works. So I didn't look to offset all of that with $9,500. Could we use additional dollars to supplant and to help keep going the program we have here right now? Would that help us? Sure, it absolutely would. It would certainly allow for me to continue at the level that I have here, and to be out in the schools continuing to do the work that we do. The primary prevention piece is the piece you were speaking to with Kyle. We talk about school-based counseling services as one service we do, and then you have the primary prevention on the other side. Those additional dollars that you talked about, whatever it was, the 1,300 or whatever it was, could certainly be utilized. So the short answer to your question is yes, we could certainly expend those funds and use those to do our services. You're muted, Scott.
There we go. That works. When I think a lot of times people would like to put me on mute. What questions do we have from people? I have a few myself, but I want to make sure we have time for people to ask questions to Mountain View on their proposal and whatnot. What questions do we have from the group?
Scott,
Yes, David.
Can you let Katie back in the meet? She must have left, and she says that she's like in the waiting room. Sorry.
So Katie Zare is in the waiting room. We certainly want her here. I don't have a thing that's like an admit button. Deanna or Ramona, do you?
I
Ramona,
do,
yeah.
but I don't see her up there waiting. I don't see where she's waiting. Hold on, let me scroll up. There she is. Sorry about that. Okay.
All right. Katie, you're back. Can you hear us?
Yeah, sorry, computer
Super
issue.
awesome. Very good. So any particular questions for Chris? I had a couple, Chris, that I wanted some people to have a chance to speak. The survey that was just completed and put out that gained some attention, we even reviewed it here. Cassie came in and reviewed it here, and we saw a statistical deviation specific to like around the 8th grade, and where there were a higher number of remarks than other grades for things like seriously considering attempting suicide, making a plan on how that person would attempt suicide, and actual attempts, and the number of multiple attempts that happened. I'm wondering what additional like educational or offerings might Snowbelt Housing be able to do just to try to get a couple more touch points out there for students on where they could go when they have these thoughts, and even trying to get something there before they do, so they know where they can go if they ever do.
That's a disturbing trend that I saw as well, Scott, that certainly caught our attention. And I wish I could say in some ways it was only just in one area that this was being seen, but unfortunately this is being seen across the entire United States. And a lot of it, we know there's impacts from COVID related to this. So I think the answer to your question, it's a multi-faceted approach of which we are a piece of the puzzle. I think that our prevention counselors are very proactive in the schools that they work in, but we're not in every school. I think that making sure the students are aware of the services, and that means working with school staff, administration, teachers, guidance counselors, etc., and also the students themselves as peer groups, being aware that we are there to help. And even though we're not necessarily mental health experts, we're certainly experts in the field of referring and identifying and helping youth get to the services they need, the community, be it us or someone else. So I think that, and I think also coupled with the fact that we are in many districts doing our Too Good for Drugs curriculum, as well as what's called Botman's life skills. So we are in many of the districts throughout the county, but this is just us in the schools, right? That doesn't speak just to the community at large, which is a whole nother topic, which is why Kyle and the staff will be out this summer doing some of the Too Good for Violence that we talked about in the sport, because we really need to connect out in the community during the summer months. They're the heightened times of the year for experimentation with alcohol and drugs and other issues, and we know that. So that's why it's so important we're having that presence in the community as well.
Very good. Very good. The other questions I had is, and I'm sure you can do this, but what we would want to, when we award the funding, we want to get quarterly reports or some type of a regular report, sanitized of any confidential information, of course.
Sure.
But what I would like to see would be the kind of impact that might be happening numbers wise, but then the topics that are being discussed, maybe just information on the staff trainings that occur. And I mean, you did a good job outlining that in the job description and the things that are in the proposal. I'm just thinking like it can help throughout the year to be getting some of that stuff. And I don't mean like getting at a a ratio percentage by FTE of what we pay versus your other source that you leverage. I don't mean that. I just mean I'd love to know in general the program that we're funding, in part, what the impact is, even if there could be a narrative of emerging trends or unmet need that can help us guide our discussions for other funding sources.
Okay. I would say we could certainly do that. That's not out of the realm of possibility. I would suggest how we would do that, Scott, would be to have a conversation probably with maybe Kyle and myself outside of this and talk about metrics, things that might be of value to you and to the group. And like you said, confidentiality, obviously, you know, that whole deal, right? We can't get into specific students, but can we give you data regarding usage, how many folks we've assessed, admitted, gender breakdowns, those types of things. We can get into some of that. We report that in our state, a lot of that in the state system anyway. So Kyle can get a lot of that information to you. And I agree with you. I think that'd be very valuable. We can do it at whatever level you prefer. If it's quarterly, we can do that. That can certainly happen.
Okay, thank you. And Deanna, I believe that was an area that we made sure we wanted to roll with, yes?
Yeah, to measure the outcomes. OCFS is really big on outcomes with state funding. So that's a measure that we have to meet. So that would certainly meet that.
Very good. And yeah,
and I was ambitious with our numbers this year too. I didn't deviate much from the numbers from the year before, even though there will be one less district in there, because I really believe the impact of COVID is going to be so significant next year when students are back in full, that I think we're going to see that big of an increase in our numbers. So actually those numbers actually represent a significant increase if you base it on the number of schools where the service will be provided next year. Long story short, I think we're going to be busy.
Okay.
I'd just like to talk about Mountain View, because they've played a big part in our district, and I know they won't be with us next year in the high school. We see the need to have somebody here 5 days a week, but I can tell you that they do play a big part. They sit on our support team. It's not just about alcohol and drug, but they really got into the social, emotional, and I think that's what Chris is alluding to, that when kids get back 5 days a week, there's going to be a strong need for that in that counseling position. So I think mining that data is going to be pretty easy for them to develop and share with our group. And I think it's well needed in the districts that can't support hiring their own person for 5 days a week. So I just want to compliment them on what they've been able to do to help us, but we just feel we need a little bit more.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it. It's been a great relationship.
Yeah, I'll piggyback off of you there, Mr. Finn. Yeah, I agree as well. Because I'm familiar with the offense life skills curriculum, as you guys know, but definitely that social and the emotional and the health and wellness, just talking to other administrators around a couple of the counties, and it's definitely well needed right now. And just having the kids get back to learn how to socialize and get back to the fundamentals, I think you guys will be of great help this coming school year. So and with the other agencies all over the county, I think we're all gonna be really busy. So you guys are very needed.
Thanks, Katie.
So we do want to get to a point of determining, do we want to make an additional contribution to this program, or do we want to hold back because we did not get as many applications and do another RFP? Does anybody have a particular opinion one way or the other on that?
God, being you're saying we can add additional funds, can we roll in the difference from their request from the county funds?
Okay, what would have to happen? Yeah, yes, we can, but what would have to happen that there was a $1,450 of their curriculums for the sport and Too Good for Violence requested thing. That's what you're referring to, right? That $1,450, we'd have to have them complete an application for it because it's actually separate than this other thing they're doing. I think we would have to do it that way. That means if we wanted to spend the whole funding right now, it would be $1,450 towards that application that we anticipate. The rest being $21,949 could be allocated to Mountain View for their counseling services as presented here. I mean, the overall cost of their program, they're estimating at $157,000. So, I mean, I think as Chris had mentioned, the additional funding could be a welcome thing. So is there any particular lean on doing that versus putting out another RFP and rolling the dice, seeing if somebody else wants to jump in?
I'm just wondering too, Scott, being things are starting to open up, would another RFP generate other applications? It'd also give Chris and Kyle an opportunity to request more funds. I mean, I think we should definitely give them some more, but maybe not the entire pot, just to spend it, but to see what other organizations that now can open up their business doors or to help our youth, what they may be thinking, because probably a month ago, they didn't think it was going to be a reality.
Yep. Yep. Deanna, you think, what's the time frame? We could end up doing that, sending out another RFP, trying to jam up the business a little better.
Yeah, I certainly think you could send out another RFP, put a month's time frame on it and see what we get back.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we can do that, that's a good idea. Now, I wouldn't think Mountain View doesn't have to apply for more. I wouldn't think. Would they have to? Do you know?
I would think if we're going to do that, and just in my opinion, and my opinion is based upon transparency and fairness and trying to ensure that everybody has, the equal access and all that kind of a thing. If we were to do it that way, I would think that yes, they would have to put an application in. So if we were to say we were going to do this, to say we're going to fund Mountain View at their full $9,500 request, and the remaining amount will be put out as another RFP. That allows Mountain View to put in another RFP for the same program, but it allows them to put in for the sport and the Too Good for Violence program, and then allows other programs that may not have thought they could have been operational to all of a sudden now indicate they could. I do think that they would need to put another application in though, just out of to be part of the pot.
Right. Okay.
That would mean that additional amount, that RFP would be for $13,899 if my math is correct. So that's a discussion that's on the table right now of funding the one application we have from Mountain View at the full amount of $9,500, and then doing an RFP for the remaining $13,899, which allows Mountain View to certainly put in for whatever else they need, and allows other organizations to put in now that they have a little more intel on where the pandemic is standing and the mandates and the restrictions and all of that. Where are we looking at right now? Does that sound?
Are you still considering giving them a little bit more for this go around, more than the 95?
Originally, Lisa, that's kind of where I was leaning, but if we're gonna open an RFP up, we probably ought to just, I don't know if we should I think it might be better to fund them at their asked amount and then have them just reapply for whatever additional they may want. I don't, it doesn't have to be done any particular way though. So we could if we wanted to. Other input? So Lisa, you had brought up the potentially additional. Did you feel that we should or have a number in your mind for that, or?
No, I just wanted to be clear before we moved forward to make sure I was on the same page as you of what you were thinking. I actually think it, like you said, for transparency purposes, it makes sense to have everything in writing without a missed gap of, well, they asked for this and they got this, and where did that go? How did that happen?
Yep. So that would put the current general consensus at funding Mountain View Prevention's application for OCFS funds at the $9,500 as requested, and for Deanna to put out another RFP with a month return for the amount of the remaining amount, which I believe is $13,899. That's the current general consensus. Does anybody feel strong enough about that to make an motion?
Make that a motion.
Okay, I see Ada's hand up as well. So I'm going to go with Ada with the motion on that. Ward, you with the second. Okay. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor remain silent. Any opposed, say nay. Carried. Okay, so there we hold that. Thank you. Moving on with other stuff. Election of officers. So at the last meeting, we had to create an ad hoc nominating committee. That was done. There were a number of people that were on it. We met. We looked at what our options are as far as we need a chairperson, one chairperson, and one vice chair. And the slate of officers, the slate of candidates, are presented as follows. Chairperson, Katie Zare. Katie has been on the board for a while. She's a regular member, regular attending member. And vice chairperson, the slate has David Fail, a student. Still, he's not graduating this year, so he's still going to be here next year. And he is a regular attendee of the youth board as well. Are there any additional hats that are being thrown into the ring? Any additional discussion? If not, I'd entertain a motion to accept that slate of officers as the chairperson, Katie Zare, and the vice chairperson, David Fail. Do I have a motion to that?
I'll make the motion.
Kaylee motioned that. A second? That's Mike Leviker, second. All those in favor remain silent. Any opposed, say nay. Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you, Katie and David.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Very good. So we're kind of starting to round the meeting out. It's been a lot of discussion in the meeting. I thank everyone for that. This is a weird world that we're in. Usually we do these in person, and that was all changed up on us. And here we are, we're getting ready to say goodbye to our seniors. The seniors, if you're still around for the, a summer meeting, you can certainly, chime in and whatnot, but we have a number of seniors that are graduating, we're saying goodbye, and they're going to head off to college or wherever their next road takes them. And we have a couple of them on the phone right now. We have Peyton and Kaylee. You're both graduating, right? What are your plans? Where are you going to next?
I will be heading out to Siena College out in Albany, where I will be majoring in political science, and I will be in a 3-2 law program with Albany Law.
Very good. Thank you. Peyton, if you can unmute there, what are your plans for next year? She is muted there. She may have stepped away just for a moment. The other seniors we have on the youth board are not here tonight. Again, it's been a weird year. I certainly appreciate the youth being on the board, and there were times when I first got on this a lot of years ago that the students were quite inactive and whatnot, and then it's ebbed and flowed, and then it's gotten more active. The last year has kind of taken a little of that away from us, because we can't be in person, and we didn't fund some of the programs that we usually did, so we weren't out there doing some of the program monitoring and whatnot. We'll get back to where we need to be. I certainly wish all of our seniors the best as they head off to college and start the next chapter in their book of life. And of course, we have some new students that'll come in their place. So we had a couple on here for a bit. I think they might be off now. We had Gavin and Brett on here. I think they're off. We'll have to check with them to see if we scared them off at all or what. Deanna, any parting words for the group?
I'm not sure about next month's meeting. Obviously, if I'm sending out the RFP, it'll maybe get out by next week. So I'm not sure that we'll have a meeting next month, if we'll have enough to go over. And then I'll check with the Copenhagen students about their interest.
Yeah, is everybody good for holding July and just going with the August meeting timeframe? I mean, there's not really a need to have meetings when we don't have material to go over. So I think that's good. Deanna, you can set it as August, whatever the normal time would be. It's summer, so it's going to be tough, with as it is trying to find a mutually convenient time. So I would do whatever the normal routine is.
Right.
And whether it's August or maybe September, I think we might want to get some updates from Victims Assistance Center on safe harbor activities from that particular agreement that we have in place there. Okay. For the good of the order, anybody have anything else to put down today?
Yeah, I just got a message for Lisa Verkler.
Yeah.
Hey, you got my cell number?
Yeah, I think I have Big Mike's cell phone.
Okay, you want to give me a call when you get a chance?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Very good. So I want to thank everybody for giving their time tonight to come in here and sit with the rest of us and make some decisions on some funding. The youth programs in Lewis County, we need to keep them funded. We need to encourage some other programs to step forth and get rolling as well. If you know of some, word of mouth sometimes is as good as the legal ad as when it comes to the RFP and that funding thing. Okay, so if you know a place, let them know about it. They can get in touch with Deanna and get the application. Any final questions?
Yeah, Scott, I have a question.
Yes, Peyton. Hey, Peyton, how you doing?
I'm doing great. When are the seniors, when is our last meeting?
This is kind of it, Peyton. Now,
Is it
I'm certainly would love to see the seniors come to a summer meeting, like when we have it in August or whatnot, because we didn't have them all here and we weren't really able to do a whole lot of recognizing of them and talking and things like that. It's so much harder when we're not in person than, when we were meeting before and we'd take some pictures and, and whatnot. So it's kind of awkward now with the way things are set up, but this would be it for some of those seniors. Their obligation is done when they graduate, but they certainly can be helping and attending at the summer meetings that we have.
So if we wanted to, we could still go to the next meeting, but we just don't have to anymore?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm just, Scott, I'm really expecting a speech here about how great it was on the board. I want like cupcakes, a plaque, some flowers maybe. So I'm really expecting, like a huge speech, especially from you,
And Peyton, congratulations on the valedictorian.
Oh,
That's
thank
an
you so
honor.
much.
Yes, congrats, Peyton and Callie. You guys did a great job. You'll be missed.
Yep.
Thank you.
We'll miss you guys too.
Oh, definitely.
All right, so Deanna will send out our next meeting time frame there. And we now have just the resolution to adjourn. Anybody want to make that motion?
I'll motion.
Peyton made the motion, second.
I'll second.
Callie, second. All those in favor remain silent, opposed say nay, and carried. Thank you all very much. Have a great evening. Stay safe.